Hey, welcome to the Dynasty Evaluation Show. Today we have a nice draft, not a fantasy football draft, a real NFL draft. We are going to go through round one of the NFL, some possible trades, best case scenario for each team. We're going to take our best stab at a round one mock NFL draft. So join us. So welcome back. We have we got some people with me. You know JT, Justin Taylor, JT Orange, my co-host with the Mo-host. JT, I haven't seen you in 24 hours, maybe a little less than that. What's going on?
Yeah, man, just getting into these mocks, getting deep in them. I'm in a startup right now with rookies involved, been pretty crazy. So, there is no off season in Dynasty. We just keep trucking along. And this is my favorite time of year. I love the NFL draft. It's literally NFL draft and Super Bowl weekend, NFL draft, and NCAA March Madness first weekend. Like my three favorite things there are. So I love it.
Absolutely. It's we got a new guy in here now today. Scott, what's going on? New face to the program here. Tell us about yourself, where we can find you, all that kind of stuff.
So my Twitter handle, how you doing, guys? First of all, my Twitter handle is sjco1, so you can find me on there. I live up in the Boston area, so we're bracing for another.
I couldn't tell.
That's what everybody says. We're bracing. Of course, the winter up here is crazy, so we're bracing for another snowstorm this weekend coming. So. I'm with JT. I love this time of year, especially in Dynasty. Draft season, NFL mock draft season, NFL draft season, and then you start right into your drafts for Dynasty. So I'm ready for it.
So as Dak Prescott would say, here we go.
Here we go.
Get this draft started. So with the number one pick. Yeah, first of all, before we start, I'm John McGlynn, John McGlynn 75. You could find all these awesome works on that we're on the Fantasy and Frames Network today. My Commissioner Evaluation, Dynasty Evaluation YouTube channel, all these platforms. You can find me on Fantrax sometimes doing stuff with P2W Fantasy. All this, there's plenty of places out here to find all this goodness, but Fantasy and Frames just has an endless cycle of fantasticness. I mean, every time I go on here, there's a new show popping up, whether it be rookie content or gambling stuff, betting stuff for Super Bowl, any kind of Super Bowl stuff. You look at Keith Fleming, all the stuff he's got going on. The guy's killing it right now. So I'll check it out. Make sure you look into Fantasy and Frames for all of their fantasticness. So with that being said, JT, you are OTC.
All right. So here on the Bears, I'm looking for a package here. If I can just get a crazy, crazy good package, I'm probably taking the trade here. But if not, and I've got some people interested in Justin Fields and I can make something happen with Justin Fields, I'm maybe going to make that move first. I know I have a bunch of Bears fans. They don't want to give up on Fields just yet, but man, they're young. The defense is building. If you can move him and get a couple more pieces and start all over on a fresh new rookie contract, you almost have to do it. So I would definitely consider trading here. But if I don't get a trade compensation that I just absolutely love here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select Caleb Williams. I'm going to take him. He looked fantastic 2 years ago. He was pretty good last year. The team kind of fell apart. They had some issues, but I think all the tools are there. He's a guy that I think has the Mahomes abilities. He can move around the pocket. He isn't a pure runner, but he's a guy that can run the ball when he needs to. He actually has that Josh Allen-like in the red zone. I think he's a lot like Josh Allen. He's not going to run a ton, but he's going to run enough where he can get you touchdowns running the ball. He's got the arm. I think if they can get a QB coach that can get him to really step into his throws, I think he's going to be dynamic. Biggest issue I saw last year for him, throwing off his back foot a lot and just using his arm talent alone. I think if they can fix those little things, I think he could be really good. If I'm the Bears, I've already traded out the one last year. I think I might have to just make the move this year and take the pick.
I like it. As a Bears fan, here's the thing. I guess every Bears fan would say the same thing. the Bears had a vision where they knew that they were way behind the 8 ball when they took Justin Fields. So they said, hey, just be patient. We'll build the team up around you. The Bears are doing that. The defense looks good. They kept the head coach because, the defense looks good. They like what he's doing. They brought a new offensive coordinator. And now it's almost like it's like a 50-50. What do we do with Justin Fields? And if you're not sold on Justin Fields right now, I'm not really sure what they're going to do, but surrounding whoever you bring in, either Justin Fields or a new quarterback or whatever you may do, the only thing to really improve this team is to improve the team all around whoever the quarterback situation is. So Marvin Harrison Jr., it is what it is, man. Fantastic pick. So, Scott, what do you got going on here?
Number 2 is the Commanders. Going Drake May. Could be the best pure pocket passer in the draft this year. Jaden Daniels can get out and run. Caleb Williams can get out and run a little bit. The glaring need for the Commanders very easily is the quarterback position on offense. They have 2 really good wide receivers in Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson was not great last year, not good at all last year. So they need to get him up to speed. They got Curtis Samuel as their third. I think a Drake May-led Washington offense, he can make every throw. He can make the outs. He can throw it down the seam. He can throw it everywhere. So I think this pick here will boost their offense enough to where they could possibly, go for a wild card. And the bring-in of Dan Quinn, who's a defensive mind, and the bring-in of Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. He'll work with Drake May, and he'll make him a better quarterback than he is coming out. Turnovers are an issue with him. He's got to protect the ball a little bit better, and he's got to make the right reads and the safe throws sometimes instead of trying to gamble and go for the home run and the big electric play on offense. So Drake May is the pick here.
John, can I jump in here real quick? I like the Drake May pick. Here's the thing: if Caleb Williams and Drake May go back to back, I actually think Justin Fields and Sam Howell have a shot to still be good, productive QBs in this league. So both these teams go back to back. I would love to see those guys moved to a team like Atlanta, a few other teams that have got some openings. I think those guys can still really do something. And I think maybe getting in a new environment and a new position, a little new love for them, I think might actually do both those guys a lot of good. So if both these teams go back to back at QB, I would love to see how and Fields moved. I just think there's a lot of places that both those guys still have a chance to thrive. I'm not down on them as QBs personally. I just think because you so rarely get to draft this high in the draft for many teams, and you have stud QBs there, I think you got to make the move. And so, but I still think those guys could be good somewhere else.
I mean, do we really think Washington would move Howell? I mean, he would be a really good, solid backup for them.
I think he would be a fantastic backup for them. Personally, just me selfishly, I like Sam Howell a lot. I would love to see him get a chance to start somewhere. But if I am the Commanders, we've seen it in this league. You got to have a good backup. If you don't have a good backup and your starter gets hurt, your season goes down the drain. You're tanked. You're absolutely tanked. Just think if the Colts would not have signed Gardner Minshew last year. Just think if they would have ran with Ellinger instead. That team is a top 5. They're picking the top 5. But Gardner Minshew was good enough to elevate that team and make them be in the play. And they should have made the playoffs. Let's be honest. They should have made the playoffs. Yeah. They missed it on the last game. They should have won the division and made the playoffs. So if I'm the Commanders, I'm not necessarily moving off of Howell if I don't have to. But if it seems like it's going to be a weird situation, hey, we want to start fresh. Maybe we do move Howell. Maybe we see if we can re-sign Jacoby Brissett and keep Brissett behind May. I can understand, see that. But if I'm them, I probably try to hold him, especially when you don't have anything invested. He's a 4th, 5th round pick. You don't have any money in him. So personally, I just love to see it because I want to see him for fantasy reasons and otherwise. But if I'm watching, I'm keeping him as my backup.
Exactly.
Yes, my audio was not working. My hearing was not working the first couple of seconds of this thing. I could have sworn you said Marvin Harrison before you made the pick, and I was on the screen. So I see you got Caleb Williams on there now, and Drake May. 2 good picks right from the get-go. And backup quarterbacks are super important. I mean, look at what happened with just having Brock Purdy in the roster. What would have happened if the 49ers would have Brock Purdy on the roster when they lost in the championship game? That's things like that are not. Sam Howell is a backup. you saw what he's capable of during the regular season. I mean, the guy was a number one quarterback one in fantasy for like probably 7 or 8 weeks, if not more. So why? I mean, fantasy is one thing, NFL is a different thing, but the guy was winning some games, so he was putting him in a position to win anyway. Backup quarterbacks are huge. I like the fact that they'll have those Sam Howell type guys behind them. So I don't want to be the guy to break this up, but at the same time, that like the Patriots, who I have now at number 3, they need everything. I don't know where to start with the Patriots. I mean, across the board, they are just, SOL. So I guess you got to start somewhere, kind of like the Bears rebuild did, hey, we got to start with a quarterback and build around our quarterback. So I'm going to take Jaden Daniels here. I mean, that might be something uncouth right now or however you say it, but I think the Patriots just need to go in a situation where the quarterback is the most important. You got to build around him. I'm taking Jaden Daniels. That's just something they're going to need receivers. They're going to need offensive linemen. They're going to need half a new defense. They're going to need, half this team is free agents, first of all. And second, on top of that, the players that they do have that are starting, Devonta Parker, Pop Douglas was okay. Kendrick Bourne's a free agent. Jalen Reagor's a free agent. But nothing on this team is Kayshon Boutte, who didn't shine at all. Nothing on this team says, hey, we're going to win. We're in win right now. The entire team is gone. So Pop Douglas, good luck with your new quarterback here, and I hope they bring some other players in. But they got to start somewhere, like I said, in New England. Welcome your new boy. So here we go.
Yeah, and I will say, being up here in New England, they have a top 3 in terms of free agency dollars. So I think the smart thing for them to do would be build one side of the ball or the other through free agency. And whether that's bringing a ton of defensive guys, they got Gonzalez coming back next year, which will be big help for their secondary. Do they build on the defensive side, or do they just say, we're going to sign a top flight wide receiver, overpay for him, we're going to get some offensive pieces, and then we'll get our quarterback, Jaden Daniels, on the draft, and then we'll go defense the rest of the draft? I don't know what they're going to do. There's been no talk.
As a Patriots fan, are you okay with the Jaden Daniels pick, or what were you looking to do?
I'm ecstatic over the Jaden Daniels pick. I think he's the type of quarterback where last year, if you watched him play in college, he protected the ball really well. He can run. He's that Konami code for a quarterback, a running quarterback that has a lightning arm that can make a lot of the passes that he needs to. So it behooves Gerard Mayo and that staff to keep him on the trajectory of protecting the ball and going up. And he's gonna be a guy you can build around for sure.
Yeah, you got a defensive minded head coach. You got
that's the thing.
New offensive coordinator to come in here. Here's your tool. Here's your number one tool. Build around that. Yep. That's it. You're okay on defense. Offense is just a disaster. So yeah,
it certainly is. You can't go in the season with Devontae Parker and Demario Douglas as your top 2 wide receivers. It's just not going to work. It isn't. So
JT, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, for me, I know a lot of people originally, everybody was saying, hey, if it goes QB, do you go Marvin Harrison here at 4? I like it. The question is, do the Cardinals maybe go tackle? This is a deep wide receiver class. Would they rather protect Kyler Murray, go tackle, and then go wide receiver in the second round? I'm really, I could go either way on that. I could see them going, hey, let's go O-line. Let's take the top guy on the board, and then let's go wide receiver late because there are more wide receivers. But for this pick, I am going to go kind of consensus, at least is what you're looking at what most people are doing in mocks. I am going to go my personal favorite. I absolutely love Marvin Harrison Jr. Loved him like in college. His dad's my all-time favorite player for the Colts. So wherever he goes, I just want him to be super successful. I think he goes there, and all of a sudden, this Arizona Cardinals team was not as bad as we thought they were going to be last year. They actually stuck in a lot of games, played pretty tough. The defense was much better than we thought they were going to be. And even, with all these backup QBs, they actually kind of were in it for a while. I think if you get Kyler Murray back, you add another weapon like Marvin Harrison to the mix, this team might not be as far away as we think, especially if you can get full healthy Kyler going. And, and if Marvin Harrison's everything that most people think he's going to be, man, that could be a great matchup. Murray to Harrison could be years and years of just fantasy gold.
Yeah, because especially, what do you think of Hollywood Brown's probably gone, that kind of deal. So you're going to have to replace him with something. It's too bad.
I like
Marvin
Michael
Harrison
Wilson. Yep,
Yeah,
I think you
of
go
course.
Harrison. You got I like Michael Wilson. You got Trey McBride. All of a sudden, you're like, this offense looks pretty good. They got some solid guys in there. The O-line can stay there. I still think James Conner is got stuff in the tank. He's been banged up a little bit here and there, but when he's played, he's been pretty good. So I think this team and this offense, this could end up being a pretty sneaky offense, real life, but also in fantasy. I think this could be a pretty sneaky offensive team for Arizona.
I mean, even DeMarcado did okay when he had his opportunity. So when you get James Conner and Michael Carter, which is a nice 1-2 punch, you get those guys in the backfield if they're healthy all season long, especially with a stud wide receiver like Marvin Harrison. I mean, this offense isn't really losing too much at all as far as players are concerned. And you're going to have a healthy Kyler Murray the entire season. I mean, that's you can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, and my question is Trey McBride the real deal? I mean, he's going to be starting tight end for the full season. Can he keep the pace up that he ended the season with, or was it just the fact that he was the only offensive weapon in town for them, and Kyler couldn't go anyplace else? So
I think he'll still be a pretty good factor in the as far as targets are concerned and things like that. There's a lot to go around in this offense, but at the same time, he won't be the target magnet that he was last year because the entire thing imploded around him. Yeah, I get it, but I mean, he's still going to be a top 4, top 3, top 4, top 5 tight end in your fantasy leagues. But in the NFL, probably, what do you think? 80 receptions, probably.
I like him. I think McBride. He was a guy that I really liked coming out of college. He had just a ton of catches at Colorado State. The biggest knock on him was he had 0 touchdowns his last year in college. But I mean, the guy caught a ton of balls. I thought he was one of those guys. I'm like, he's going to get drafted. He's going to not play a bunch early, and everyone's going to get down on him. And then they're going to be like, oh, that's why he was like the top tight end drafted last year. I mean, I think he's really good. And I think Kyler's going to unleash him. I think another year in the system with the offseason, with a whole offseason with Kyler, to me, McBride to the moon. I think he is going to be fantastic. I just did a startup. Obviously we're talking real football here, but I think he's going to be great. But in fantasy, to me, he's right in that top 3 of dynasty value for tight ends. I don't think he's going anywhere personally.
Scott, we got 3 quarterbacks and a wide receiver off the board here now. There's a lot of speculation about what the Chargers are going to do here. So it's your pick. The Los Angeles Chargers are on the board. What do you think?
So they got a new staff. Harbaugh, the head coach. Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator in LA now. He has been a coordinator that's run the ball a ton. Running back makes no sense to the Chargers up at this spot. It comes down to 2 guys for me. It comes down to Brock Bowers at tight end, where they desperately needed a tight end. Gerald Everett's on the wrong side of a career renaissance, so to speak. I'm going to go Malik Neighbors here. I just think that they're in cap. They have to cut a lot of guys here. Josh Palmer's just the guy at wide receiver. Mike Williams or Keenan Allen. I think Mike Williams may be a cap casualty for them. So I think they need to go younger at the wide receiver position, and they need to find explosive threats on the outside for a Justin Herbert-led offense. And I think Malik Neighbors provides that from LSU. If you saw him last year, Jaden Daniels leaned on him time and time again to make the big catch in big situations, scored a lot of points, caught a lot of balls, a lot of yards. So I think Malik Neighbors makes a lot of sense here for the Chargers.
That's interesting because, it's the receiver is a big hole they're going to need to fill. And, Quentin Johnson didn't really pan out last year. He looked pretty good towards the end of the season. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. For what we expected, he started out slow. He looked a little bit better towards the end of the season, but nothing like they expected. But I was with Stone Smart and Donald Parham left over in the tight end position, I was kind of expecting a little possibly a Brock Bowers off the board here, but probably a little too early for that. I get it. They have bigger fish to fry, but man, that's a good pick, I will say.
I watched a lot of LSU games this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jaden Daniels is really good. Neighbors made him look really, really good in a lot of situations. I mean, Malik Neighbors was an absolute beast in the SEC. Absolute beast. I mean, this guy's going to be great. I will be ecstatic if this pick happens. I'm a big Herbert fan. I'd love it. If they don't go offense with Bowers or Neighbors, I could definitely see Harbaugh going O-line here. I really could. That, the way they love to run the ball. I absolutely think they're going O-line unless they talk to him and they're like, we got to get a game breaker on offense. And Herbert, the guy, we know he's really good. We found last year, man, as soon as Keenan Allen got hurt, they had nothing. And when they were peppering Keenan Allen targets. That's all they had. He was literally just Allen. They got to get help. In this day and age, you got to have wide receivers. You have to. I think the Neighbors pick is a home run if they take it. If they don't, I think they're going O-line to help protect Herbert.
Plus the other thing with Chargers is Austin Eckler's probably going to be gone. So there's no pass catching threat out of the backfield right now. Josh Kelly, running back's not the way to go right now, but at number 5.
Yeah, I definitely think they could. I think they'll go running back at some point, but I think they're going to go running back at 3rd, 4th round. I don't think they're going to go running back.
Exactly.
No, and I'm not sure they have the money to bring in a free agent that's out there either. That's the only problem with that.
Yeah. Agreed.
So now I have the New York Giants, and the New York Giants went from a playoff contender to a absolute trash bucket last year. So another team that needs a lot. Losing your quarterback sucks. Early in the season, they're probably going to lose Saquon this year. I'm sure. I don't think he's coming back. I don't think they, as much as they want him to come back and be the face of the franchise, he's probably going somewhere else. I can't see.
Yeah, and I saw a report. I wish I had the person that I read it from, but there was a report that they said they were most likely not going to franchise him again this year.
So, with all the holes they have, and you saw Daniel Jones, how many times he got sacked last year. That's just, you got to stop that somewhere. So, I think their best option is to bring in offensive linemen. There's a couple offensive linemen here, but if it's a 50-50 to me, I'm always going to go with the Notre Dame boys. So Joe Alt, he's probably the best, one of the best offensive linemen across the board. Definitely probably the best left tackle in this draft. So, I'm going to go with Joe Alt. You got to start somewhere with these rebuilds, and there's no better way to start than in the trenches. So I'm going to go Joe Alt, and then just solidify that offensive line for if they do keep Daniel Jones or they bring somebody else in later in the draft. I don't know, but whatever the quarterback situation is, you can't have the guy throwing from his back. And their run game was not working very well. It became down just nothing but dump off passes, and they don't really have much receiving core either. But you got to start somewhere. So I'm going to go left tackle as long as you're at this point in the board, because you can't reach on skill players when you can't get in the ball because you're on your back the entire time.
Yeah, they don't need another 5'8", 175-pound wide receiver. So they've got to build their lines. That's where you're going to win football games.
Yeah, there's a lot of big receivers in this draft, but at the same time, you got to go with. You got to be able to get these guys the ball. And that's the biggest problem they're having right now is just getting the ball to anybody because there's no time at all. So that puts us in the situation where the Tennessee Titans are on the clock here. So, wait, hold on. Where are we at here?
I think it's me.
It's you. You're the Tennessee Titans.
So for me, whatever you think, about the offensive situation, what's going on there, the defense needs a lot of help. I could see the Titans literally going in a ton of different directions here. They need a lot of guys. Their secondary is not good. Their O-line was trouble last year. They could use DN help, but I think if I'm this team, I'm starting new. I got a new young quarterback. I don't want him to be super turnover prone. Someone who I think is a turnover prone guy. I want to protect him as much as possible. With all off the board, I'm probably going the next best offensive lineman on there. And I think Fashanu, I think is how you say his name. I always blow his name up. Out of Penn State, the offensive tackle. I think he's the way to go. Tennessee, when they had success, they built up that offensive line and they really ball controlled and did that. I think that's what they got to get back to. There's a lot of holes, but if you're picking this high in the draft with this many holes, I think you go O-line. That's got to be the first thing you address for me. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm going O-line, the big guy out of Penn State.
Yeah, they had a lot of trouble protecting the quarterback last year. I mean, a lot of trouble. So you have to build up the offensive line. Will Levis is a young quarterback. You got to protect him. You got to give him time to throw the ball. So
Levis didn't look as bad as I he had that one big game where he threw the 4 touchdowns, or this first game back and everybody went nuts. And after that, he did okay as far as getting the ball out of the pocket. But I mean, the time he had in the pocket was absolutely terrible last year. By the time the ball got in his hands in shotgun formation, he'd take a step or two back and somebody would already be in his face. You got to protect the quarterback way better than that, especially for someone like that. You're going to ruin his confidence if you don't protect him. So 100%.
No,
agree with that pick.
I agree with it.
So next pick is the Atlanta Falcons, Scott.
And before I make this pick, could this be a Justin Fields landing spot in trade, Atlanta?
I think so. I think if you're the Bears and you end up taking Caleb Williams, I think Atlanta is the first place I go. Now, can I get the 7 pick? Will I give up a first rounder for him? I'm not sure that if it was a late first, maybe. I don't think you can give up the 7th here, but I could see the Bears maybe trying to get a package deal where they get like a 2nd and a 3rd or do something like that. But if I'm Atlanta, looking at what's out there, looking at their division, they were right in the mix. I mean, they blew a lot of games. They easily could have won that division. And really the QB play was just not good. If I can get a Justin Fields, and I just feel like he would fit with that offense. If I could get a Fields and give up a couple picks, I'm doing that here if I'm Atlanta. I don't think I'm trading this pick, but if I could give up a couple 2nd or 3rd rounders, something like that, either this year or next year, I think I would look into it.
Yeah. So if I'm Atlanta, I'm looking straight at the defense right now. You just hired a defensive-minded coach, Raheem Morris. I think on offense, you should be okay. They've picked 8th the last 3 years, with Arthur Smith as the head coach. Now that Morris is there, I think you're looking at getting an explosive edge rusher in Atlanta. Offensively, you got Drake London, you got Bijan Robinson, who's going to be used more and more, I think, this year. And you got Kyle Pitts. So I'm looking at Alabama and Dallas Turner as the edge guy that I'm picking at 8. I think you need some explosive playmakers to get to the quarterback, and I think he could be one. So it's Dallas Turner for me for Atlanta.
Nice pick, man. That's a little unexpected. That's cool, but I know they do need a defensive player, but that was a name I haven't heard in too many drafts. So that's good stuff.
I like that one. I have to agree. They need to be able to get some edge pressure, and they have really struggled in the draft getting edge guys that have actually worked out for them. There's a whole list of guys, if you go down the line, that they've taken edge rushers, D-line guys that have not worked out. But again, you can't say just because it hasn't worked in the past, we shy away from it. I think you're right. I think edge is what they got to have. I think Turner, to me, there's some maybe some slightly higher upside guys, but I think Turner's the best all-around edge. To me, I think that if you're Atlanta, you're probably pumped. I mean, if you're at 8 and you're getting the top edge rusher in the draft, you got to be pretty psyched, I would think.
Yeah.
So we just mentioned the Bears, who are on the clock next, and this is a situation the Bears could only dream of right now of being able to trade back, get 100,000 more picks, get their quarterback of the future, possibly get more picks by trading away if they don't keep Justin Fields, but having the opportunity to have a brand new quarterback and a brand new stud wide receiver on the outside. So we Marvin Harrison is off the board already. Obviously, I mean, there's a tier of like 3 players in this draft that people all consider to be the 3 best wide receivers, and Dunze is left to choose from, and I think the Bears just having Rome Odunze fall in their lap here at pick 9 is absolutely fantastic. I think that's where they need to be. That's where I think they want to be, and I think that's where they need to be. So to boost up this offense. That's not that they're going to lose Darnell Mooney, probably Economia St. Brown. There's not Javale Jones is just a special teams guy. And they got Tyler Scott, who, he's a speedster, young kid. But DJ Moore is obviously phenomenal, but someone else on the outside that can play the slot if he needs to anywhere else. That's having Roma Dunze at this pick just fall right in their lap is exactly what the Bears needed.
Yeah, I agree because DJ Moore's in the past. I mean, Cole Kmet's as solid a tight end as you come by. But if he can get an explosive wide receiver to go across from DJ Moore, that's only going to help Caleb Williams if that's who the Bears are drafting at number 1. So I agree. I love this pick a lot.
JT, that brings you to the Jets. The Jets are rumored to really need to be needing a tight end right now. So what do you think?
So this is really interesting. I'm just kind of looking through what the Jets need. Watching their team last year, obviously a fantastic defense. When Aaron Rodgers went down, the offense just really sputtered without him. They could use some more O-line help. The question is, are they in love with either CJ Latham or do they like, a guy like Talisa Fuagua from Oregon State? He could be in the mix. Do they think 10's a little high for one of those guys? I don't know. It's tough to see. I could see them going O-line. They need some safety help. This spot up here at 12 or wait, they're at 10 is way too high to take that. They need some defensive tackle help. I really like Jordan, who that goes by Johnny Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. I really, really like him. Do I think they spring for him at 10? That's a tough one for me. I don't know if they do that. Offensively, their tight ends weren't great, but they weren't terrible. Conklin was all right. Brock Bowers kind of fallen into their lap here. And it's like, I'm just not sure. I think the Jets should take him, but I'm not sure the Jets will. But if I'm making the pick for today, I think they're probably going to go O-line here. But I think they should go Bowers. I think they need someone offensively to go with Garrett. No one else really stood out for me at all for them. So I think Brock Bowers is that mix between tight end, wide receiver. I just think the athleticism and the ability and how you can use him is just so many different ways. So I think you're getting the best of both worlds here. You kind of need a wide on the outside, but I think you could use him in the slot. I'm going to take the most talented guy left offensively. To me, he's by far the most talented offensive guy left in the draft. I want some more firepower for Aaron Rodgers. I'm taking Brock Bowers. Yeah,
they're losing a couple offensive linemen, and it is a place of need. You could address that later in the draft also. But, Tyler Conklin has been solid. They drafted Jeremy Ruckert in the third round pick. I think they had Kennedy Aboa still on the roster. They took a late flyer on Zach Kuntz, an athlete, to try and see if he'd work out, and that didn't really pan out too well. But I just think that this is a situation where it just kind of, again, like the Bears, just kind of fell in their lap where they didn't have a choice but to take the best player available on the board. So I agreed.
Yeah, I think they go Bowers or O-line. And the question is there an O-lineman that they just really like right here?
Yes.
If not, I think they just go with the best offensive weapon. They're like, hey, we got Breece Hall. We got Garrett Wilson. Brock Bowers is like a guy that can do a little bit everything. Teams love those guys now in the NFL if you can get a little bit creative on offense. And I think he would, just take this team to another level offensively. And again, they're so good defensively. So I think you have to go O-line or you have to go I think if there was a really good wideout here, say a Dunze or somebody dropped, I could absolutely see them taking him. If one of those guys get there, I think they go wideout first, honestly. But I think if they're gone, they go, hey, who's the next best guy out there? Who's the best next athlete offensively? And I think everybody is going to say Brock Bowers.
Scott, Minnesota Vikings. They have a lot of needs on the defense. They need a running back, possibly some, the defensive back help. And they also need a quarterback. Possibly they don't re-sign their heir apparent that should have been coming back. If they can give him a bunch more of guaranteed money, maybe they'll get Captain Kirk back. But what do the Minnesota Vikings do here?
JT mentioned that Johnny Newton is on the board, and they need some defensive line help desperately. I think, again, they're another team that's gotten younger on defense. So I think this just goes with their trend. I think Johnny Newton is a perfect fit for the Vikings here at 11, and then I think he can excel in that defense that Brian Flores, is aggressive defense, and so I think Johnny Newton's the guy to bring in and go with those rest of those guys on defense.
Johnny Newton, okay.
I'm from Champaign, Illinois. I go to University of Illinois games all the time. Johnny Newton was an absolute stud. I mean, absolute stud on defense. This guy has a chance to be one of the best. If he keeps on the trajectory he's on, I think he has a chance to be one of the best interior pass rushers we've seen in a long time. I really do. I just got a motor. He's a little bit undersized for D tackle, but I think in the right defensive system, and you get a place where, like there with Daniil Hunter on the outside, where you can put Johnny Newton inside of him, you can run some twists, some different moves. I just think whoever ends up getting Johnny Newton, they're going to get to camp and be like, we got a stud. I mean, I really do. I think whoever ends up with him is going to be ecstatic because to me, he is just one of those guys that can bring the heat, but he also plays the run. So he's not one of those guys that only is going to get after the quarterback, isn't going to settle down. He'll take on double teams. He's a little undersized, but he'll take those guys on. I just think this guy, just playing at Illinois, not quite getting as much spotlight as some other people. I mean, I think if this guy played at Michigan, people would be just talking. Everyone would know who he is because he's an absolute beast. I love this pick for the Vikings going to the defense. I think it's phenomenal.
And I think pairing him up with one of the best defensive minds in the football in the NFL is only an added plus for this kid. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that brings up the next team is the Denver Broncos, and that's me. I need a lot of help on defense here. And I thought maybe the Falcons would have took Latu for what were they picked at. I was kind of not that Dale Turner is a bad pick or anything like that, but Latu's had some in the past. He had some neck issues. He kind of walked away for a little bit, medically cleared, come back, had a fantastic season. So I think at defensive end, to plugging in Latu here for the Broncos is kind of a guy that just they need on their team to solidify the defense. The guy's a menace on the end. So that's who I'm slating him for the Denver Broncos, just because that's the team's biggest need, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's maybe the highest upside guy as far as like high end. Where can he finish in his career? Obviously, the injury concerns I think are the biggest issue. That's why I think maybe the Falcons go with Turner, who's just a little more all around guy. I think Latu, huge upside for him. I absolutely can see a team jumping on him and taking him because the guy, when he's his best, he might be the best rusher in this draft.
And I think this last season has kind of proved that any injury concerns that he had are probably to the wayside now because of the way he played and how he played. So yeah, you can't get scared off with injuries. Everything heals. His career might not be forever, but for a couple of years, you cannot pass up the production that Latu will bring to the team. JT, Las Vegas Raiders.
So this one's a toughie for me. I honestly could see the Raiders going in so many directions with this pick. I really do. They got a lot of need. The question is, Aiden O'Connell, of course, they're coming out and they're saying, hey, we like him. He could be our guy, but you got to say that right now. I think they're going to be in the mix looking for a QB. They really got to be. Is there a guy they really love here? I don't know. I like J.J. McCarthy. I think teams are going to get him in there and they're really going to love him. But I'm like, is J.J. McCarthy a typical Raiders pick? I would say no. That's not usually the way they go. They're usually like flashy, give me the coolest guy in the draft. And you know what I'm going to do? I think Terrion Arnold's probably the best cornerback, but I think the Raiders get crazy, and I think the Raiders take Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think they go cornerback. That division, throwing the ball all over the place. Herbert, Mahomes, you got to have a good DB. They definitely could use help in the secondary. Kool-Aid McKinstry just feels like a Raiders pick. He feels like they're going to go for the upside. I think Arnold's probably slightly better. I would take Arnold. I think they go McKinstry because I think they like the electric factor of who he is and the type of player he is. So that's what I'm going for the Raiders.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he pretty much feel. I think a guy like Kool-Aid would be a pretty good fill in any backfield in the NFL. So that's to go to the Raiders right there is I'll take that for sure. Scott, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock.
So the Saints are bereft of a wide receiver talent. Michael Thomas is either at the end of his road with the Saints or pretty close to the end of the road. Rashid Shaheed is not a number 2 wide receiver. He's one of those guys like a James Williams. That's a 1 or 2 catch deep threat guy for them. So I'm going to stay in my home city, and I'm going to go with Brian Thomas of the LSU Tigers. I think that he just makes a whole lot of sense for the Saints to pair up with Olave. And they're going to have Derek Carr again as a quarterback. His contract says they're probably going to have to bring him back. So I think you need an explosive playmaker opposite Chris Olave. And I think Brian Thomas is the guy that you can pair up with him. Plus, you're getting him to stay at home. The kid from LSU is going to New Orleans. So perfect matchup for the Saints. So Brian Thomas is the pick.
I love that pick. The more and more I look at Brian Thomas, and again, not to diss Jalen Daniels at all, but man, he had playmakers this year. Brian Thomas, again, being the number 2 to Neighbors, Brian Thomas was really good. Really good. He just got overshadowed because Neighbors was so good. But I think you're going to see Brian Thomas get in the combine. I think you're going to see him at Pro Day, and I think he's going to blow people away. I really do. He's just physical, 6'4", 200 plus pounds, big guy, can go. He's a deep threat. He can go deep. He also is good on a 1 cut where he just takes that 1 cut in and runs like a quick slant. He can get the ball and make plays. He's a yak guy. He can when he catches the ball, he can make guys miss. He can get around guys. To me, I've seen him as like kind of a fringe first rounder and slowly moving up drafts. I think this is a perfect spot for them. They got to add firepower for Carr. Olave's really good, but he can't be your own guy, your only guy. Yes. And at this point, you got to move on from Michael Thomas. I mean, it's done. He's never coming back. He's never going to be the Michael Thomas he was before. And I agree completely with Scott. Rashid Shaheed he's a nice player. He's your 3rd, 4th gadget guy, get you a big play. You can't have him out there on every play as your number 2. I love this pick. I think if you're the Saints, I think this is a home run hit. You love Thomas. They've probably watched a ton of him on tape already throughout the year. I think this just feels like a great spot for him.
Plus, I think what Brian Thomas does, he attacks the ball in the air. He doesn't allow it to come to him. He goes and gets the ball. And that's exactly what the Saints are looking for in a wide receiver. So,
and I think that's been the biggest issue for some of the big guys that have come out the last couple of years. They're 6'4". They don't go up and get it.
Yeah.
They're 6'4" and they wait on it. He goes up and gets it. So his 6'4" is more like 6'8" because he'll go up and go grab the ball over a guy. He doesn't wait for the DB to be able to catch up and make a play on the ball. He just jumps up, goes over the top, and makes plays. I think he could end up being, I know he's a deep threat guy. I think he could end up being a red zone monster in the NFL.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He's been moving up the board so much if you look at like any of these draft boards, he's been moving up so much because people just I'm not sure why he wasn't noticed before, but he's just someone that I just keep seeing more and more of, and he's being regurgitated more and more. The echo chamber of Twitter, the echo chamber of the NFL. Brian Thomas is making strides to move up the draft boards. I put it that way.
For me, I think it's the same thing people talk about Neighbors. If there was no Marvin Harrison Jr., everybody be like Neighbors, clear cut number 1. I think the same thing here. No Neighbors. I think people are all over Brian Thomas. And I think the issue is, so many people, they watch the tape and they see Neighbors are like, man, this guy is unbelievable. And he is. But I think Brian Thomas is a different receiver than Neighbors, but I think he's right up at that level. I really like this pick.
Yeah.
JT, just what position do you think your Colts need the most to fill in? What do you think is the most important spot?
I've seen a ton of different stuff come across. If Brock Bowers somehow slips past everyone and gets here, I just don't know how the Colts don't take him. I really don't. I think you got to take him, even though tight end is not a need. I mean, they have 175 tight ends on their roster. They absolutely do. They have 175 tight ends, and I'm not even exaggerating. That's how many they have. And they're going to probably draft 3 more this year.
You're not sold on Kylan Granson and Mo Alley Cox?
Mo Alley Cox got to go. I like Jelani Woods. I think Jelani Woods, who missed all year with injury, is going to come back, and I think he's going to be really solid for them. But I also think they're going to want to run a few more 2 tight end sets. I think Mallory from Miami, who they drafted late last year, has got some potential. Yeah. Kylan Granson, I was really expecting more out of this year. He actually was a little bit of a disappointment for me. Mo Alley, I love the guy, but he's done. Jelani Woods is basically a younger, more athletic, better Mo Alley at this point anyway. So I think the fact that you could use him in the slot, you can move him around. I think Bowers is the way to go. If he gets here, I think you got to take him. Now, the absolute monster flaw for this team last year was the secondary. The DBs were just horrible. They had nobody. Juju Brents, I like a ton. He was banged up, didn't play most of the year. I love the upside of him. But once they lost Isaiah Rodgers, they were in trouble. They were in big trouble when he got suspended. They were screwed. They were playing guys off the street last year, and it showed. They gotta go cornerback. They need a safety brutally bad, but you can't go safety here. You can get safety later. Also, I know as Colts fans, we're all over Twitter, X. Oh, please go get Antonio Winfield. They want Antonio Winfield so bad, which I think would be an absolute home run signing. But I think you got to go cornerback here. I don't think there's any other option if you're the Colts.
I think Nate Wiggins is the best left on the board. So I think as far as that goes, I know, I mean, I already had him on my list. You could see before but I wanted to hear your thought as a season ticket holder for the Colts. So I'm going to go Nate Wiggins here, make that happen. It might be a little bit of a reach, but I think he's a better player. He's younger, just adds an element that is deeply, deeply concerning for the Indianapolis Colts. So just as long as it's addressed, who knows which player will be the better. Only time will tell. But Nate Wiggins right now is kind of my selection for your Indianapolis Horseshoe Colts.
I think Wiggins is going to be there. I think if somehow Terrion Arnold gets there, I think he's definitely going to be in the mix too. I think it's going to be a question of just who they particularly like better. But I definitely think if Wiggins and Arnold are both there, I think it's going to be one of those 2 guys. Sure. And it'll just depend on who the Colts decide fits their system the best. So I agree. I think I love to see Bowers fantasy wise, just for AR, all that. But I don't know how they don't go cornerback here.
Well, JT, you are up next. You talked enough about the Indianapolis Colts, even though they were my team. So I'll let you talk about the Seattle Seahawks for a minute. So go ahead.
The Seahawks, this is another team. A lot of different things they could go for. I think they maybe kind of like look at the board. They say, hey, who is the best guy out there? Who is, the top player? Maybe we're not going to go for, what we consider biggest need. Maybe we're just going to go best value, best available. This one, I can see him going a lot of different ways. I think they need O-line help. To me, if I'm them, I'm probably leaning Fuagua from Oregon State. I need a little O-line help. I think he can play a little bit of anywhere. I think the guy's a mauler. I think him being up at Oregon State, they've probably seen a lot of film on him and things. I just think this team's going to want to build the lines. I think there's some good cornerbacks out there, but I think that's with them going Witherspoon last year. I think I think they could say, hey, that would be a luxury pick for us. I think they go O-line and try to solidify. I still think they're going to want to, even though Carroll's gone now, I still think they're going to want to run the ball with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I think they're going to want to get a little more O-line help.
Yes, that's always a need for a team that runs the ball as much as they do. So this is an exciting pick right now. Scott, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I kind of excited about this. I think their offseason they're going to need to have a pretty good offseason because I think they're going to lose a couple players. They need to improve on a lot of positions, but Trevor Lawrence needs some help. They need help in a lot of places. But what do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars need the most?
So the biggest question with the Jaguars is what is going on with Calvin Ridley? Are they going to resign him? Are they going to let him walk? What are they going to do with him? This is a team that has a lot of needs They need line help. They couldn't protect Trevor Lawrence at times last year, and it showed. They need another playmaker on offense in terms of the wide receiver core. If Ridley walks out the door, it seems to be a better offense with Zay Jones on the field. And that's strange to say because Zay Jones is not exactly a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL. I'm gonna say they go to the line and they build that up. And I think J.C. Latham is sitting there. And I think they're gonna go with him out of Alabama. I just think they need to go and protect Trevor Lawrence better than they have. They had a lot of injury problems. They had a lot of protection issues. They had a lot of offensive line issues. So I think J.C. Latham would be the guy that I would go with here. And then they can grab the wide receiver and such in the second and third rounds of the draft. So that's where I'm going.
Not bad at all.
I think I think Lawrence played hurt a lot of last year. I think he was banged up a lot of the season. You just saw the way he threw a lot of his passes. It reminded me of one of the years watching Andrew Luck, where he just had rib, elbow, shoulder stuff all year, and you just watched every pass he made, everything floated on him, and it was because he couldn't step in and just unload. And you watched a lot of T-Law this year, which I do. I've got a ton of fantasy teams. A lot of his stuff was just floating. He wasn't on target. I think he was just really banged up all year. I think if they can go O-line to help, I think that'd be huge. I think the other option here for them, I could see them going like a Jared Verse edge from Florida State if he ends up falling there. I think he could maybe go before this spot, but I could definitely see Verse being a guy if they decide they want to go a little more defense, if they don't like whoever the O-lineman is that gets them at that point. But I definitely think O-line is something they need to definitely be getting. They need to be looking at it because they need to make it. They just need to help. It needs help. And I just think I've seen Thomas going to them here in some spots. If he gets this far, I just think they need other spots way more than that. And I think they can go second, third round. I think they can find a wide receiver. If for some reason, Ridley leaves, I do, like you said, I do think Zay Jones is way more important to this offense than people realize. When he plays, it's crazy, but when he plays, they look a lot better. And for some reason, he makes everybody else in the wide receiver room look better as well.
Yeah. And as strange as this sounds, it's a huge year for Doug Peterson, and it's a huge year for Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence is the same quarterback next year, going into next year, as he was this past year, there's going to be a huge ton of questions on whether Trevor Lawrence can be an NFL quarterback. So,
yeah, because the thing is, I mean, the guy is an NFL quarterback. The question is he going to be that top 5-10 guy that everybody said was going to be? And I think you're right. This is, we get all right. Hey, we had the Meyer debacle. We had the Urban Meyer debacle. Peterson came in, it got a little better. Oh, we regress a little this year, but hey, he was banged up. I think you're right. I think it's a prove-it year for the Jags. It's a prove-it year for T-Law. It's a prove-it year for Peterson. I think they're going to want to get him as much help as they can so that he really takes that next step forward this year.
Yeah.
This is my next team I'm picking now is the Cincinnati Bengals, and they have a couple needs. They're going to have some real financial situation coming up here soon with a lot of players they're going to have to sign. But if they're going to sign these players, they are going to have to, fix the boxes first. Keep the defense, keep the offense on the field, get the defense have the defense keep people off the field, and just kind of this team needs a little bit of help in the box on both sides of the ball. I'm not really sure which way to go here, but I think J.C. Latham is probably somebody I think that they need more than they should take at this point. But just having an offensive lineman, really good offensive lineman here is probably more important. It was just kind of a toss-up between going defense or offensive line, but I think they just need, if they're going to focus this team on offense, they're going to need to protect everybody on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go J.C. Latham here.
Well, John, he just took Latham with the Jags.
Oh my God. I didn't.
Sorry about that. We were just talking. No, I think J.C. Latham's the pick if he gets to them. I agree with you. Yeah. I think that they would go with him. But if he's off the board, what do you think they do here? Because the question is, if he comes off the board, is there another O-lineman that they like enough here? I think it could be Tyler Guyton, and I do think it could be him or Marius Mims from Georgia. Guyton looked pretty good down at the Senior Bowl, the recent Senior Bowl. He was. I watched a lot of the reps, the offensive line, D-line reps, Guyton looked pretty good. I could definitely see, I feel like his stock's on the rise. I definitely think Guyton could go here to them. Or, like I said, I've seen a lot of people kind of mock Mims from Georgia in this range. So if you go online, which one of those guys, if Latham's gone, who would you take, John?
Probably Mims. I guess that would be the next best. Just because, I mean, Georgia's such a good running team. I think you need someone that is a good run blocker, someone with experience in a just a powerful offense. So probably Mims is who I would take. I think they need to go on the opposite side of the ball. And I'm not sure. I wrote down Latham in my spot as I was answering my phone. Sorry about that. My wife was calling me, but that's Mims is who I'm taking here.
I think the difference between Mims and Guyton, I think Mims is more of a mauler. Like you said, I think he's more of a run guy. I think Guyton's going to be a little bit more of a pass guy. He's a little bit bigger, skinnier, and not that he's skinny. He's just kind of more of that lengthy guy. I think he's got room to put on some weight, but I think it just kind of depends on who you like here better. But I agree with you. I think whoever's here, I think the Bengals are probably going O-line when it gets to them in this spot.
So next on the list there is JT with the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams. They have a couple. They needed defensive ends, some more offensive line help. Everybody needs that. Possible tight end situation, maybe some defensive back help. What do the Rams need here? What are you doing for the Rams?
I've seen some people mocking QB to the Rams here. I just don't think I see it. I don't think Stafford had a resurgent year last year. He looked like the old Matthew Stafford. Everything coming out of his mouth seems like he's got a couple years left. They're planning on bringing everybody back as much as they can. I just don't see it happening. This is not the year I think they reach and grab a guy. There's quite a few guys in this area. This is, we get to this point and a guy like Arnold's fallen this far. I think they're definitely going to have to look and go, ooh, I didn't realize he was still going to be on the board. And I think they're going to think maybe that's who we go with. Maybe we take a guy like that, because I think that's definitely a possibility for them. I also think they're a team that could look at D end. I think they definitely could look. I think I'm going Jared Verse here. I think they're going to want to get a little more pressure from the outside. I think this is a nice spot for him. I think he could go technically higher than this in the draft. I think if he gets here, if it's Arnold and Verse, I think there's going to be a toss-up in the room, and there's going to be a discussion on where they go. I definitely could see Arnold going here too, because they could use a little upgrade at cornerback for sure. I guess it just will depend on what they look at and say what's more important, and who do they have higher on the board. They have Arnold ranked higher, do they have Verse ranked higher? And then who do they think they can get later? I think teams tend to value DN a little more than they do cornerback. So I think it was a toss-up. I would go Verse and go DN here.
All right. Very good. Scott, Pittsburgh Steelers, JT's other favorite team.
So Kenny Pickett is the big question mark here. And I don't think they'll go quarterback here. I could see them going quarterback, but I seriously doubt they're going to. I think their new offensive coordinator hire is going to make them go with Tyler Guyton here. Because what does Arthur Smith do? Run the ball. What do you want to do? Bulk up the offensive line as best as you can. So I think Tyler Guyton's the guy here to go with. And I think that's going to lead right into what Arthur Smith wants to do on offense, which is get Najee Harris going and Jalen Warren going. And he wants to pound the ball, and he wants to tire defenses out so it'll soften them up for the passes that he's going to throw. I'm not saying he's going to throw 600 passes, because he probably won't. But I think he's going to rely on Pickett to throw 20, 22 times a game, but he's going to really rely on Najee Harris to bring the mill home. So I think this could be a huge Najee Harris year in Arthur Smith's offense. So I would go with the Guyton as the pick here.
I have to agree with Scott 100%. I think it's gonna be a big Najee year. I really do. I know people are down on him fantasy wise. I see him ranked so low. I'm like, the guy has gone for 1,000 yards 3 straight years. If you watch the Steelers game, the offensive line was a mess, and he was still being able to produce. I think this line has turned the corner. They looked a lot better near the end of the year. Here's the thing. I think this Guyton pick would be huge for them. I think they could put him on the right side. They can move Broderick Jones, their number one pick from last year, from the right to the left. He's a much better left tackle. I don't even want to get into their left tackle because I'll talk forever about how terrible he was this last year. So I think you just get Jones back to the left side. I think Guyton would be a huge pick here. For me, I think it's for the Steelers, it's cornerback or offensive line. I think if Guyton gets to him, I think they go Guyton here. If for some reason all these top end offensive linemen are gone, I think they go cornerback then. But if he's here, that he would be the last top end tackle. I think they have to take him. I think Scott's right on here.
Yeah, it was the Dolphins. They could shift some guys around. That's my pick up next.
Hey, John, before you jump into your pick here for the podcasters, you want to read through where we're through 1 through 20 so far?
Yeah. If you have to explain, I'm having a problem seeing the board.
I'll do it. I'll read it real quick since I've got it easy. So, number 1, Bears, we had Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC. Number 2, Washington took Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina. Then number 3, we had the New England Patriots, took Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU. Number 4, Arizona Cardinals take Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, Ohio State. Number 5, we have the Los Angeles Chargers taking Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. Number 6, New York Giants taking Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. Number 7, I'm going to butcher his name, Tennessee Titans take Alwanu Bashunu, offensive tackle, Penn State. Number 8, we've got the Atlanta Falcons taking Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. Number 9, Chicago Bears taking Rome Odunze, wide receiver, Washington. Number 10, New York Jets taking Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia. Number 11, we've got the Minnesota Vikings taking Johnny Newton, defensive tackle, Illinois. Number 12, we've got the Denver Broncos taking Latu, edge from UCLA. Number 13, Oakland Raiders taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. Number 14, we've got the New Orleans Saints taking Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU. 15, Indianapolis Colts, Nate Wiggins, cornerback, Clemson. Number 16, Talis Fuagua, offensive tackle, Oregon State, going to the Seattle Seahawks. 17, Jacksonville Jaguars taking J.C. Latham, offensive tackle, Alabama. 18, the Cincinnati Bengals taking Amarius Mims, offensive tackle, Georgia. Number 19, Los Angeles Rams taking Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State. And at 20, Pittsburgh Steelers taking Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle, Oklahoma. So that's what we're at right now. And we're on pick number 21, Miami Dolphins, and it's John on the clock.
I just feel like the biggest need for the Dolphins would be the offensive line. I think they're pretty set right now. I mean, the future-wise, Tyreek Hill said he's going to retire in a couple of years. Who knows what's going to happen with that if he plays this year, next year.
Tyreek just had a lot of kids. He might want to keep playing as long as he can. He's got a lot of child support checks coming up for him.
And he's got divorced again for like the 17th time or something like that too. So
yeah.
I don't know.
He's going to talk to those accountants, and they're like, "Your buddy, you want to play as long as possible."
I don't know what to say about those kind of things, but
I'm sorry. I probably should have let that out. But yeah, go ahead, John, with your pick.
I just feel like the Dolphins. You can never really kind of you can move guys around the offensive line, but it's hard to get like outside guys who are absolute studs on there. I know they need like interior guys, but you can move some guys around. I think Graham Barton is probably someone who I like at this pick. As far as that goes, I'm not sure how. As a Dolphins fan, I feel like they had so many injuries last year on the defensive side of the ball, especially that I think when the team comes back to full health, the defensive side will be fine. The receivers are okay. They could probably use another outside threat, but they don't use their tight ends. So drafting a tight end here doesn't really make much sense to me because he's not part of the program minus the block, and you can get a blocking tight end anywhere. So I just feel like solidifying the offensive line is probably the way to go.
You're going Graham Barton, offensive guard, Duke?
Yes.
Okay.
He played tackle and most of the time.
Yeah, I think this would be a solid pick because he did play tackle at Duke, but everyone says he's a guy that has the ability and the talent and the brains to play anywhere.
Right.
So he can play tackle. He can play guard for you. He can do anything.
Someone like that. Yeah. He's mobile. I think he's big enough to play tackle. And I but playing all over the place is of having a versatile player because of injuries or, just depth chart issues, be able to move people around. I think having someone like that instead of just a right tackle or just a center or just whatever. A guy like Graham Barton, I think, would fit in his offense pretty well as an interchangeable part. I think it's maybe even start him off on left or right tackle and just go from there because he just seems like someone who can play almost anywhere. I mean, I'm obviously not center, but anywhere. So, with that being said, the Eagles are next. JT.
Yeah, Eagles. I mean, they're a team that has load up on defensive draft picks. If you just look at the roster, you look at the names on the roster, you're like, man, this team should be awesome. And they were terrible last year. I mean, it made no sense. I mean, they couldn't guard anybody. Everybody is throwing all over them all day, every day. The crazy thing is, if this happens on draft day, they're going to be like, every person on the TV, every bun is going to be like, the Eagles do it again. How does Terrion Arnold drop that far? Everybody had him. People had him as the number one cornerback. A lot of people had him number one on their board. How does he drop to 22 and in the lap of the Eagles? I think it could happen again. I think there was like, how does that happen? I think the Eagles are going to get lucky. I think they're going to get a guy that probably should have went 10 picks higher. But cornerback, they got to have it. They need help in the secondary. They were not good at cornerback this last year. Darius Slay is slowed a little bit. He's still good, but they need some help out there. I think it's a gift if Arnold falls this far to the Eagles.
How do you call it? The popular pick here was Jackson Powers Johnson just because of the Jason Kelce retiring and making that solidify the offensive line. They need someone, probably the best center in the draft by far, taking that spot. But I can understand your side of the spectrum also.
I think people are overthinking that. I really do. I think they're overthinking that. They're going, this is a 1-for-1 trade-off. This guy's out. You got to get this guy. I think they go, hey, we really need cornerback more, and let's get center in the second, third round. We don't need to take a guy this early. I think it's a convenience. Like, we'll just take the top center and replace it. Now they could do that, but to me, I would be really worried about this secondary. If Arnold falls this far, I think they got to take him.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, center is the the quarterback of the offensive line. He runs the whole show. He's calling the plays. He's changing the audibles, whatever. Making all the adjustments. So I understand it's an important position.
It's super important, but it's like inside linebacker. Inside linebacker is super important too. They're calling all this stuff, but not very many people are taking inside linebackers really high anymore. And again, you can get those guys because those guys are smart. They're grinders.
Right.
You can get really solid guys like that in the second, third, fourth round. You really can. And you can get guys that play. I mean, if you want to look at the history of the NFL top centers of all time, most of those guys have not gone high in drafts. They just haven't.
The other thing on top of that is also when you play center, you're the number one. You're always going to be double teamed with somebody on run block, on pass block, and things like that. There's always someone to help you. So you don't have to be a top tier center. You can get a smart guy that can block average.
You got to be smart.
Yes.
You don't have to be the perfect size. You don't have to be a 6'7", 330 with a super long wingspan and play tackle. You can be a grinder and get it done at center. That's the same thing with inside linebacker. You can just be a guy that has a nose for the football. Maybe you only run a 4.68 40. You do like those types of things, but you just have a nose for the football and you're smart. You can get away with that, those certain positions, and you just got to be smart with it and get the right guys. Get those interviews in, go like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He fits our system.
Yeah, be smart and be able to move. That's kind of the requirements for center. So, Scott, you are the Houston Texans.
So the Texans, the only thing they really need right now is running back help on offense. So they got Tank Dell, they got Nico Collins. I think they're going to re-sign Dalton Schultz back. So I think tight end wise they'll be okay. So I think you look at the defensive side, and I think you look to the secondary. And DeMeco Ryans is a defensive head coach. I think he's gonna want to get an explosive playmaker in the secondary, and I think Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo will do that for him. I think he reads routes very well. He breaks early on passes. He can read the quarterback. And I think he's going to make some explosive plays at points, but I think he's also going to get burned once or twice. So I think it's up to DeMeco Ryans and the defensive coordinator in Houston to kind of rein that in a little bit and kind of, have him stay aggressive, but also know when to be aggressive and when to kind of lay back, let the guy catch the ball in front of you and make the tackle. So I think Quinion Mitchell, who's been rising in draft boards, I've been looking at mock drafts for a while now. I think he'd be a really good fit in Houston right there. So,
I think this is a good call. I've seen a lot of people mocking him to the Steelers if they end up going cornerback as opposed to O-line. I've seen a lot of people say they really like him there. I was just watching something from Ray G the other day, Destination Debbie. He said that he thought Quinion Mitchell was the MVP overall at the Senior Bowl. He thought he was the best player there. He showed the most. He said he thought he was just absolutely going to rise up draft boards after showing that he could play with top end guys, being out of Toledo. I agree with you. I think if he somehow gets here, I think DeMeco Ryans is going to absolutely love him. I think this would be a great pick here for the Texans.
So I have the Dallas Cowboys here next. I think that probably the Cowboys' biggest position might be a linebacker. I think that would be something that they need to fill the most. Obviously, running back is a situation of need here, but I'm not sure that anybody's going to pull a trigger on the running backs at this point in the draft. So I'm thinking probably something like a Jeremiah Trotter or maybe somebody like that would fill the gaps that they need at the linebacker position. But another guy that's could probably play, inside or outside. I feel like that's a minus running back. And everybody's talking about they should draft a wide receiver. They need a wide receiver. They need a wide receiver. I'm not really sure that wide receiver is more important than solidifying the interior box of the defense. So I'm going to go Trotter here.
Okay, let me find him. Trotter. Hold on a second. Yeah. Give me a second. I'll make it faster if I actually go to the position he plays. I can find him a lot faster. Jeremiah Trotter. There you go.
I think you started on the box there. So, it might not be the smartest pick or the safest pick or the popular pick, but I just think that this is one of their biggest needs. The Cowboys do have a handful. You saw that offensive line help they need. They need some defensive back help. Obviously, running back help. But I just feel like a linebacker position just kind of fits the Cowboys' mentality, their stereotype, and that's just what I think is probably the most important need.
Yeah, I can see them definitely going if like a Chop Robinson on the edge rushers there, or even like a Byron Murphy, big defensive tackle. I could see them also going that side. I'm like with you. I think they end up going defense with this pick. So I just think the question is who do they have at the top of their board and just where they go from there. But I definitely think defense, whether it's edge, tackle, or a linebacker, I think I could see them going in that direction here.
All right, next is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, JT.
So Tampa Bay here, a little bit surprised. Baker Mayfield, obviously best year of his career. Looking for some help here. If they re-sign Mike Evans, I could see them going, okay, we're probably good on offense. If they don't get something done, I could absolutely see them going Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State. If they think they're not going to get Evans back because they're going to hey, we need help here. I personally think they get it done with Evans. I think he ends up staying. I think they end up keeping him. So I think if they end up keeping Evans and they don't take Coleman, I think they look at their big board and they say, let's go. They're getting a little older on the outside. I think they go with Chop Robinson, edge, Penn State. Oh, excuse me. We actually jumped here. We messed that up, John. You got Tampa Bay and Green Bay back here. Well, you actually had them on the list in front of you. Sorry, it actually should be. It should be
Green Bay.
Green Bay here.
Oh,
Let me see if I can figure out how to. I don't know if I can go back here. I'm not sure if I know how to.
that's
take
all right.
him
We'll
off
just switch
there.
spots.
Okay, we'll fix them. But yeah, so do you get Dream? You had it on the list as Tampa Bay, then Green Bay. Sorry about that mess up there. So we'll switch it then, Scott. So I'm going to say it looks wrong on the board, but we'll say I'm going to take Chop Robinson for the Bucks. Scott, who would you take for the Green Bay Packers here?
Well, I would take an offensive skill player, but Green Bay never does that. So I'm gonna put myself in Green Bay's shoes. Jordan Love came on as the season went on. He was really good down the stretch. I think the receiving core is going to be really, really good in a couple of years with Jaden Reed. Whether Christian Watson stays or not, who knows? Romeo Doubs was really good. So I don't think they're going to go the wide receiver route. I will, however, I did say I wouldn't go skill play, but I will in this case go skill play. I think they need another running back. Aaron Jones is getting long in the tooth. A.J. Dillon is out of Green Bay, I think. So to me, Jonathan Brooks would be the guy here. I think he's the best running back in the class. I think he's got explosive ability. I think he can timeshare with Aaron Jones. And I think when Aaron Jones leaves in a year or two, I think that Jonathan Brooks can be ready to take that number one spot in terms of the backfield. So I'm going to go Jonathan Brooks here. Even though Green Bay doesn't do it, I'm going to do it for them. So Jonathan Brooks would be my pick there.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of people had him as the number one RB before the injury. Luckily, it sounds like it wasn't a terrible ACL tear. It was just the ACL. They got it fixed. They're expecting him back for training camp. I could see them moving along slow. He's young. That's the nice thing for him. He's only a sophomore, redshirt sophomore. So he's a guy that if he sits for a year behind Aaron Jones, you get another year out of Aaron Jones, who's going to be turning 30 after this next year. Then maybe that is the right move. I would be shocked if they made that move, but I actually don't mind that here, Scott. I kind of like that where you're thinking.
Yeah, they never pick a skill player in the first round, never. But I think if you look at their team, I think the defense played a lot better. I think secondary help is definitely a need for them. But I also think when you look at the offensive side of the ball, I think that running back is going to be a sore spot in a couple of years for them when Aaron Jones is gone and they don't renew him. So
yeah, I think you're right on where your head's at on that. I also think if there's a cornerback on out there that they have on their list that falls, I definitely think I could see them going cornerback.
No doubt. If Terry Arnold was there at 20, I would definitely have taken him for Green Bay.
I agree with you. I think so.
Yeah, I'm looking for a cornerback right now for the Arizona Cardinals. Who's left? I'm not allowed to adjust that board. Who's left at cornerback right now?
If you're looking at kind of overall, there's plenty of guys. The guy that I really like, I think has huge upside. A couple different guys where you like him. Cooper DeJean from the cornerback from Iowa, I think is just explosive all around player. Kamari Lassiter, the cornerback from Georgia. Those are probably the top two cornerbacks on the board. If you were looking to go corner, the question is like, do they feel good with their safeties? Are they going to move on from one of those guys? If they do, a guy like Cameron Kitchens from Miami is still out there. So it just kind of depends on what you think they would go there. I think cornerback, like you said, I think cornerback is a spot in need for Arizona, and especially if they go offense with the first pick. I think they go defense with this second
I do
pick.
too. That's kind of why I don't want to just automatically refer to Cooper DeJean here, but at the same time, that's their biggest need right now when you already address the wide receiver position. So I think he's the best player left as far as skill positions are concerned for the defensive backfield. So quarterback is a huge situation. I'll take Cooper DeJean here.
I really like him. I think he's a really good player. He's just got a great skill set. Man, if you're in a fantasy league that does kick and punt return yards and he ends up kicking and punt returning, and you're in an IDP league, he is going to be a cheat code for defensive backs. He's a guy that kind of reminds me of Dory Jackson. He's at that Dory Jackson when he came on originally, when he came into the league and they were letting him kick and punt return, and he also was playing cornerback. Man, in IDP leagues, he was winning leagues because the guy was putting up crazy points as a corner. I think Cooper DeJean is super underrated. I like him a ton. I think this would be a great fit here for the Cardinals. They need some help in the secondary. I think this is a great spot for them if they get him here.
Yeah, great player and a great defense all around. So that's how that team was just absolutely outstanding on the defensive side of the ball this year. So that's to get someone like Cooper DeJean this late in the draft. It not that it seems like a gift, but just to solidify a big need on the secondary right now is very important for the Cardinals. Next up is my team, my new team, I guess. I like Josh Allen more like the team, but I'm kind of referring more to Bills Mafia, all the good stuff that goes on in Bills Mafia. Why I picked the Dolphins to be my favorite team when Dan Marino was good back in the 80s. Now I'm kind of stuck with him as my favorite team, but I love Bills Mafia, but we're going to have to do something here. So JT, who is Buffalo taking? They need a wide receiver. They need they always need players on defense. The team is just built around defense. So what are you taking here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Everyone is kind of preemptively saying they're going to take wide receiver. It's just kind of been the thing. I think that's almost more of a fantasy tank. Like people think they want them to take wide receiver because they think they're going to. I just don't know if I see it. I really don't. I think it's deep. I think there's other guys they like. I think Keon Coleman's out there. I think he would be a nice pick for them.
But you're losing Gabe Davis probably. I mean he's a little bit overrated anyway. I think as far as I'm concerned, Khalil Shakir, he's shown flashes, but he's not been anything crazy good. I understand you got Dalton Kincaid and you got Dawson Knox, and the team runs pretty well with a double tight end set. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean that's the way they want to go in the future. Maybe is the Diggs going to be there next year? I don't know did he have a pout the last half of the season? Did he just have some kind of pouting fit? Was he actually hurt? I don't know what happened there, but it wasn't impressive. He gets real antsy sometimes, and you see some stuff in the news once in a while about him calling people out or not being happy, or it is important. They do need a wide receiver, but I'm not sure a rookie wide receiver is going to fix the entire team here either.
Yeah, I think wide receiver would be great if they take a wideout. Fantasy people are going to go nuts. He's going to go real high in rookie fantasy mock drafts. I just don't. The Bills could use some more help on D. They really could. I think they're going to look defense here, and I think they're going to look who's the highest rated guy on their board. And I think the highest rated guy on their board is going to be Byron Murphy. I think they're going to go Texas defensive tackle, Byron Murphy. They got Ed Oliver. You could put Murphy in the interior next to Oliver, kind of get some of those double teams off Oliver. To me, this feels like where this direction of this team might want to go. I could see them possibly trading up in the second round and trying to grab a wideout if some guys fall. I just think at this point of the draft, after these first couple wideouts go, I think you're not going to find any consensus among NFL people on who likes who better. I think it's going to be very team dependent on this next tier of wide receivers on who they like, depending on who fits their system the best. Is that an Xavier Worthy? Is that a Troy Franklin? Is that a Keon Coleman? Is that a Donnie Mitchell? And I think with that many options, I think people are going to go, hey, I got to take a top end guy wise. And I think if you can get Byron Murphy to fall this far at D tackle, the guy's a beast. I think the Bills go Murphy if he gets here to them.
Yeah, they have a lot of with the money they have. They're like $53 million in their red in their cap hit. So they're in trouble cap wise.
They got to get better against the run. They got to get better against the run. They have not been great against the run the last couple of years. How do you fix your run problems? You get a big stud defensive tackle in the middle.
Yeah, that's especially a team that revolves around defense. Yeah, 100%. I'm good with that. So, all right, I'll take that from the Buffalo Bills. Baltimore Ravens, Scott, What do you got here?
Are we on Detroit or Baltimore?
Yeah, John. Yeah, you interchanged a couple guys on your spreadsheet, so that's what's throwing you off. So it technically is Detroit. You said that Scott had Baltimore. So John, if you want to go technically here, and then we'll go back to Scott for Baltimore. John, you go as Detroit.
Detroit Lions. So okay, I'll pretend like I just got a trade here as far as that goes.
You did pretty good. You just superimposed two of them. There's two of them. You just changed where they were actually drafting, so you're good.
I think they're good. The Lions. I think they're pretty good at wide receiver is something that they could always add to that. But wide receivers are everywhere. There's a lot of free agent wide receivers this year they can pick up in free agency. They got a pretty decent amount of money still. They're doing all right. The Lions' biggest problem right now, I think, is just the secondary. I think the biggest need they have to fill is definitely in the secondary. So there's as far as secondary defensive backs are concerned, cornerbacks are more important than safeties right now, but they need both. So what's as far as Kamir Laddister, TJ Tampa. I'm not going to know. Kalen King from Penn State, I guess, would be probably my choice here. Kalen King. I think he's the best leftover cornerback right now on the draft board. So I'll take Kalen King here for sure.
All right. I like that move. I think they go secondary. I agree with you. It just depends on who they like. I like Rakestraw. Obviously, I'm a Missouri guy. I watched a ton of him. He's just got great length. I mean, the guy's got very nice size. I think he's 6'2", 6'3". I think he's going to be a mix for a lot of teams. So I think when you get to this point in the draft, I think you can look at the rankings of how, we kind of have them. But I think teams are going to look more specific. Hey, does this guy fit our system? Is he a press corner? Is he better at man? Does he play good zone? Because some of these guys, they're going to go up or down on a draft board for a team depending on what their strengths are and how that fits that team. So I could see a guy like Kalen King going here. Like I said, they need some safety help, but I think for the most part, teams are going to always go cornerback over safety in these type of situations.
You can wait on safety. Yeah, absolutely. It's 100%. It's just more of a, who's a better tackler at that point in time. Who's, so yeah, cornerback, especially for a guy that likes to bite kneecaps, you need to have a shutdown corner, somebody that, that can cover well, tackle well across the board. And I think Kalen King is probably, there's some pretty good players left on the board there at the cornerback position, but Kalen King, I think, is my favorite left. So next is Baltimore Ravens. So how did I mess that up last time? Who's next?
I'm up. So I'm defensively, they're pretty good. They could use secondary help, as could every other team in the NFL draft. Use a lot of secondary help. I'm gonna go on the offensive side of the ball. I think the J.K. Dobbins experiment is over for Baltimore. I think he's just too injured. He get every time he's on the field after five carries, he gets injured somehow, some way. So I think J.K. Dobbins is pretty much done. Gus Edwards to me is just a guy. He's a great fit in that system, but I think he's just a guy. Keaton Mitchell probably will not be back till halfway through the year with his injury. So I'm going to go Trey Benson out of Florida State here. I think because of the lack of depth in the running back room, I think they've got to go to this angle. And I think that what Harbaugh wants to do is run the ball a lot. And I think Lamar's going to throw the ball. But I think also the bread and butter of the Baltimore Ravens is the rushing attack between Lamar and I think getting a young guy like Trey Benson who is a physical runner but has explosiveness. And I think that's what Harbaugh needs in the running back. So I'm going to go Trey Benson here.
You know what else Harbaugh likes is not fumbling the ball. And for someone who went 28 games in college with 0 fumbles, he's a good blocker too. You got to run it. You got a running quarterback, a guy who's, just to say like, oh, it's funny to have a running back that blocks. When you have Lamar Jackson in the backfield, then you're doing play action, things like that, and you have a good blocking running back that doesn't fumble the ball, can catch the ball. I mean, he only had a 4.6% target share in college, but I mean, he still has. He's 6'1", 215. He runs a little straight up sometimes, but the guy is. I think this is a perfect fit for an offense that just wants to control the ball. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think what the pass catching running back for them might be Justice Hill. He might be the third down back for them in the hurry up.
Yeah, you don't need somebody to come in and do everything. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. 100%. That's right. So
For me, if the Ravens actually do this, fantasy-wise impact, Trey Benson is flying up my board. Trey Benson's my RB1. I love Trey Benson. I've been saying it for over a year now. I loved him coming in last year. I just think the guy has all these skills you want at the next level. He's got good size. He's got great balance. He doesn't fumble the football. They didn't throw to him a ton, but man, if you go back and you watch, he catches the ball naturally. He had a really nice catch for Florida State on the sideline in one game, was a back shoulder catch, and you would have swore he was a wide receiver. Just caught it super naturally, back shoulder on the sideline. He would be a beast in this Ravens offense. Man, he would be good. I mean, we're talking about everybody's talking about fantasy-wise, wide out quarterback, all first round. You see Trey Benson go to the Ravens, this guy might jump into the top 5, top 6 all of a sudden in fantasy drafts. To me, it would be crazy to see them actually do this, but I think it would be a great move. I think Trey Benson would be everything we wanted J.K. Dobbins to be.
Yeah.
I think he's a better receiver than J.K. Dobbins. And the guy did not get a ton of carries in college. He's got a load of tread left on the tires. I think this would be a home run pick for them. And, man, I'd have to start moving up. Because right now, I'm like in my fantasy drafts, like, oh, I'm just going to wait for Trey Benson to fall to me in the beginning of the second round. There's no way you're getting him in the second round if something like this happens.
And I think what the Ravens could do is start with Gus Edwards and then bring Trey Benson along slowly. He's more of a week 5 on running back for the Ravens, not necessarily.
We know they use it. They use a ton of guys. There's no reason they're not going to use him and Gus and Justice Hill. They're going to use a bunch of guys, but I also don't think that kills his value just because they use a bunch of guys. Now, are you going to get Gus Edwards maybe to steal some goal line carries? Of course you are, but I think Benson would be a really nice fit in Baltimore. And you know what? I hadn't even considered that until you picked him. I would like that. That'd be nice.
That would be the equivalent of like what people expected to get from Roschon Johnson last year when they drafted him.
Yes.
Kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed, John.
So who's got the Chiefs? Who's last?
Chiefs. That's we got Scott on that one too. So Scott, go ahead there and you can jump in and take the Chiefs.
Scott.
So the Chiefs, of course, need wide receiver help. I mean, the MVS, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, that's over, I think, or pretty much done. I think one of those guys or two of those guys will be back, but I don't think they're gonna be key cogs in the offense. So when you're looking at wide receiver, there's Keon Coleman is sitting there. He's just slid down and down and down. And I think that he would be a really good fit in the Kansas City offense, especially if they don't go out in the free agent market, which they usually don't, and get the big wide receiver, i.e. Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, those guys like that. So I think Keon Coleman here fits for Kansas City in so many ways. And I think, again, they can bring him along slowly because they got Kelsey, they got Rashee Rice, they got Pacheco. They can streamline their offense to those 3 guys start of the season and bring Keon Coleman along very slowly. And rookie wide receivers usually don't fit great in an Andy Reid offense, but Rashee Rice is changing that narrative for them. So Keon Coleman's the guy here late in the first round for them.
I like Keon. Some people like Keon Coleman a little bit better than I do. I mean, I think he could fit in a lot of places, but man, he's he's a red zone monster, but he just kind of 33% catch rate is not that good for someone who's his size. So I could just see someone a little bit further down the board, going to Kansas City instead of Keon Coleman. But I get it. That's that wide receiver is definitely their need. So they're taking a wide receiver there. I'm not a big Keon Coleman fan. JT, what do you think about Keon Coleman pick here?
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those guys. Certain teams are really going to like him, and I think there's just going to be other teams that don't. I just think it's going to be dependent on, because the guy has crazy athletic ability for a guy his size. He was punt returning at Florida State at 6'4". You never see that. You never see that. Guy played basketball at Michigan State, super athletic. It's just going to be the profile. I think Keon Coleman could go here, but you know who else I think could go here? If they don't go Coleman, I could easily see them going Lad McConkey, like a guy like him or Adonai Mitchell. that's just a little bit, maybe a little bit of a smaller guy that's got great route running. I could see McConkey being Andy Reid, like loving him and like falling in love with a guy like that. So I definitely think, I know everybody wants the Chiefs to go wide receiver. Will they? I don't know. But I think if you watch what they've done this year, I think you have to like be honest and say, we got away with it this year because Mahomes is just Mahomes, but we got to get him more help. We got to get him more help. And at this point, if you have this many guys on the board, you're literally going to go, hey, we got a group of 4 or 5 guys that are all real close. Which is the guy that we like the best?
The other guy I thought of
fits their system.
The other guy I thought of was Troy Franklin out of Oregon. That's the other guy I thought of, and he's a good fit for the Chiefs as well. But I mean, when Keon Coleman, who's supposedly going to be a mid first rounder, if he starts dropping, I think that Andy Reid would jump at the chance to get him.
Yeah, so I think it's going to depend on who they personally like better, because I think these guys are all real close. I mean, I really do. I think it just depends on what personal skill set you're looking for and what you want your guy to do. Because I think a lot of these guys, they're not the same players. Don't let me tell you when I'm saying like they're close. I think they're close in ability and skill level. Yeah. What they do is not the same. So I think it just depends on what do you perceive as better. And then I would look at it if I'm the Chiefs. Okay, what does Travis Kelce and what does Rashee Rice do really well? Let's find a guy that does something that they don't. Is that a deep threat? I think it's a deep threat. Personally, Rashee is not really a deep threat guy. So if I'm them, like you said, I think you go Keon Coleman if he's there. If not, I think Troy Franklin's the next best deep threat in this draft. So I'm probably looking at those 2 guys. I could see them falling in love with Donnie Mitchell. I mean, he's shown some great things. McConkey, Worthy is really good, super fast. He can get downfield too. But I think if they're looking for more of a deep threat guy to finally be somebody that's MVS, but actually can catch the freaking football, then I think you go with a Keon Coleman or a Troy Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, watching MVS have to fall down to catch the ball because he's so afraid of dropping in these games is absolutely ridiculous. And I just like Trey Franklin. They can't have Keon Coleman type guys who are dropping the ball. Like, they have somewhat of even any drop issues at all. Troy Franklin's got some sticky hands, man. He's not the biggest dude in the world, but his hands are sticky. And the guy who can play anywhere. In case somebody gets hurt, he can play on the inside, he can play on the outside. He's a fast, he's fast, but his hands are just, is good. That's the reason I would take Troy Franklin over Keon Coleman here. But I'm not an NFL exec. They see a lot of things I don't see. But just from the things I've watched and seen, read and heard, I would probably go Troy Franklin over Keon Coleman here. But they're it's like neck and neck in most people's rankings anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So. Sorry guys. Kind of rough start for me. That I had a lot of stuff going on that I didn't expect during this show. Kind of thrown off a little bit here. But Jay,
John, you want me to do I'll do a quick recap here for everybody listening. So I'll do the last 20 picks here. We did Miami Dolphins at 21 to Graham Barton, offensive guard out of Duke. Number 22, Philadelphia Eagles took Terrion Arnold, cornerback Alabama. Number 23, Houston Texans took Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback Toledo. 24, Dallas Cowboys, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., linebacker out of Clemson. 25, it's superimposed here. He took Jonathan Brooks, running back out of Texas. 26, Tampa Bay, Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. 27, Arizona Cardinals, Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. 28, Bills, Byron Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas. 29, Detroit Lions, Kalen King, cornerback, Penn State. 30, Trey Benson, running back, Florida State, goes to the Baltimore Ravens. And then 31, Kansas City Chiefs, Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State. So I'll just run down the whole list for everybody at the end here. Bears taking Caleb Williams at 1, Washington taking Drake May at 2, Patriots taking Jay Daniels at 3, Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, Chargers taking Malik Neighbors at 5, Giants taking Joe Alt at 6, Titans at 7 taking Alamanu Fashunu. I know I butchered that and said it 37 different times. That's who they got at 7. 8, the Falcons taking Dallas Turner. 9, the Bears take Roma Dunze. 10, Brock Bowers to the Jets. 11, Johnny Newton to the Vikings. 12, Natia Latu defensive end to the Broncos, 13, Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Raiders, 14, Brian Thomas to the Saints, 15, Nate Wiggins to the Colts, 16, Talise Fuaga to the Seattle Seahawks, 17, J.C. Latham to the Jags, 18, Amarius Mims to the Bengals, 19, Jared Verse to the Rams, 20, Tyler Guyton to the Steelers, 21, Graham Barton to the Dolphins, 22, Terrion Arnold to the Eagles, 23, Quinyon Mitchell to the Texans, 24, Jeremiah Trotter to the Cowboys, 25, Jonathan Brooks to the Packers, 26, Chops Robinson to the Bucks, 27, Cooper DeJean to the Cardinals, 28, Byron Murphy to the Bills, 29, Kalen King to the Lions, 30, Trey Benson to the Ravens, 31, Keon Coleman to the Chiefs.
Very well. We got a question. How many running backs do you predict in round one? Well, we just went through the entire order here, and it looks like
we had 2 at the end of the first round. Mm-hmm. I think, a lot of people don't think there's going to be an RB in the first round, but I think we've seen that sneakily the last couple of years where people don't think there's going to be one, and you get 1 or 2 guys kind of sneak in that last round. I definitely think there's a chance there's going to be one. I think one of these teams is going to like a guy. I like the 2 picks you made. I just don't know if I see the Packers making that move for Brooks in the first. It would be great. I think it's a smart move. I don't think they do it. If I had to take the over under, I would say 1. So if the over under was 1.5, I would take the under and say it's going to be 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would too.
So that's aggressive. Yeah, it's aggressive, but hey man, it's still early. The draft hasn't happened yet. This is we're just guessing on what's going to happen, what we think is going to happen. Free agency hasn't happened yet. People forget that the biggest clog in this whole thing is going to be free agency because there's a lot of running backs out there who have they're going to change teams. A lot of surprise going to happen in free agency. A lot of teams are going to free up some cash by just dumping some salaries. They'll have money to pick up running backs. They're going to spend some money they didn't expect to spend. And all of a sudden, bam, hey, now I got a little bit extra cash, or I don't have enough money. Let's go with a running back somewhere. But
yeah,
I mean, anything could happen right here. There's nothing. These are just preliminary guesses, way too early drafts. And it's
John, I think we're gonna see a lot of RBs in that mid-third round. I think you're gonna see a lot of these guys are kind of right in that range. I think you're gonna see a few guys come off the board in the third. I think there's gonna be a lot of 4th, 5th round picks. I think there's guys that people like, but they're not gonna reach for. If they get to them, they're going to take them. I think a majority of the guys you're going to look fantasy-wise to draft are going to be guys that got picked up in the 4th or 5th round. I think they're going to see – I think a couple guys sneak into that third, but I think they're going to be really scattered. I don't think we're going to see big running back runs anywhere. I think they're going to be very scattered throughout the draft this year.
And I think guys that are popular right now, like Blake Corum, are going to be falling more than people expect when draft time comes. Guys like that,
like you said, like the core, I think you're going to see a lot of these guys. Certain guys are going to fit for certain teams. And if that guy's there, they're going to take him. But they're not going to just go to the next running back, I don't think. I think if they're getting hey, if somebody really loves Corum, I think if Corum gets there at a certain point in the draft, I think they'll take him. But I don't think it's a 1-for-1 like, oh, we're going to take running back. Oh, Corum's gone, we'll take the next guy. I don't think you're going to get that. I think teams will move off. If the guy they specifically like isn't there, I think they're going to go a different direction, and maybe they'll take another running back later on.
There's a certain coach in LA that if he's there in the 3rd round might jump up to take him.
I agree. I think everybody, obviously, that makes sense to have Corum go to Harbaugh. Yeah. Again, fantasy-wise, if Corum goes to the Chargers in the 3rd round, he is going to fly up fantasy boards. Right now, most drafts, he's like mid-second. Somewhere there, early 3rd, depending on what league you're in. I think he's a guy that maybe sneaks into the end of the 1st round if he ends up going to the Chargers.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, all right, Scott, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you jumping on. It meant a lot for you to be here to take the half-hour draft that turned into an hour and 42 minutes. That's kind of how it works around here. So,
John, you always underestimate. I could have told you it was at least going to be an hour and a half, and if I would have talked just a little less, we would have made that hour and a half mark.
Yeah, if I didn't pick the same guy twice, because I had some things going on I did not expect in my personal life showing up that were just happened. So sorry to be a little bit distracted during this draft, but nothing's worse than when you have something going on and nothing happens for the last 24 hours, and as soon as you start something, like everything blows up, and it's like
blows up. Yeah.
Shit, So sorry about not being 100% on here today, guys. But it is what it is. Scott, where can they find you at? What's going on in your story here?
So I'm gonna be starting writing articles for Fantasy and Friends. I'm gonna write an article on Trey McBride next week, right after the Super Bowl. So the Trey McBride, as we talked about earlier with the Harrison pick, is going to be something that I'm going to have to think about. SJCobe1's my Twitter handle. You can find me there if you want to get in touch with me. That's where you get in touch with me. And as I said, Fantasy and Friends, I'll start write articles for them next week, and I'll probably appear in some shows with Stacy and a couple other people. So looking forward to it getting started. This is like Christmas for me. I love the NFL mock draft season and the NFL draft season. So this is great. So anytime you guys need me, thank you.
Did a great job today. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for looking forward to working with you in the future. And JT, how about you working all the? Thanks for bringing up this draft board and being in charge of the draft board today. It was big. It was a big help. I couldn't really see it from my angle here. I need to learn how to get that going on StreamYard. So I was kind of up against the ropes on a couple situations today. Thanks for manning the draft board. Thanks for filling in. Thanks for taking control here today. So where can everybody find you at, JT?
Got to be the co-pilot. I got to help you. I got to help you out. So you can find me on X at JT Orange. Jump on there. Talk football, real life football, fantasy football, hockey, all sports. I'm on a little bit of everything. So feel free to look me out there. You can check out my show, The Stew with JT Brew. You can look that up on YouTube. I've got just released my Super Bowl bets guide, all the bets I'm liking, taking some specialty stuff. So go ahead, search that up, The Stew with JT Brew on YouTube, on Spotify, all the places there. Also, article came out today on DLF. If you're a subscriber over there, I gave you my breakdown for one QB rankings and drafts, like what I would do in a startup one QB league, how I approach it, my kind of thought and outlook on one QB leagues, and then kind of my rankings 1 through 120, where I'm taking those guys who I'm looking at. So that one's coming out today. Also, if you're in DLF and you play IDP, check out my IDP rankings. I talk about a lot of the guys. I just have my new rankings for IDP defensive players, rookies, coming into the draft up there. So take a look at that as well.
John McGlynn 75 on X. We did a 5-round rookie draft mock yesterday for fantasy football purposes. That was fantastic. Worked out great. We had a bunch of guys in the industry, friends of my Dynasty home leagues, some friends from the Twitter machine, X machine, kind of jumping in with us also. And it worked out real nice. We reviewed that yesterday on our show, on the Commissioner Dynasty Evaluation Show. This was the first of a series. Probably every 2 weeks we'll jump back in until the draft, and then maybe after the draft we'll evaluate the draft also. But every couple weeks we'll jump back in, kind of see where guys are moving, what's going on, injuries are going to happen. There's going to be free agency happens. So this is all going to change. All this stuff is liquid right now. You can't. None of this stuff is in blood. So just keep chatting. Fantasy and Friends YouTube channel, Commissioner Evaluation channel, which you can find all of my stuff on Fantrax, on Fantasy and Friends. Anything else that's going on, I'll put on there also. So thanks for watching the show. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next time on the Dynasty Evaluation.
Bye.